There's the kitty, and here's my Boston safety pen that I got from Nathan Tardif. And I used it quite a bit yesterday when I was on the train, and it wrote like a charm. It did not clog, even though I'm using platinum carbon ink, which I will show you as soon as I can find it. Here it is. I'm using platinum carbon ink, which is a permanent waterproof ink. And you wouldn't use that in a normal fountain pen, but you can use it in a safety pen, which is what this is. What happens is you essentially submerge the nib in the ink when you're not using it. So there's no nib there because the nib is retracted into the barrel where it is presumably completely covered with ink. I think the idea is you have to keep this pretty well full when you're not using it. Very carefully, I learned at my peril, you need to press this down slowly, and the nib comes up. I'm pulling the barrel down. The nib comes up and sort of locks into place. You pull it down as far as it will go, and let's see if it writes. Look at that, like a charm. Nathan was mentioning that when you use his ink that he designed for this, you have to shake it every 2 or 3 minutes to keep it flowing, but I don't find I have to do that at all with this platinum ink, so hopefully it will work for you. The nib in this pen, the nib that it comes with, is a steel nib, but it has a little bit of flex to it, and I think it's a perfectly good pen for an artist. You can write upside down on it and have a little reverse finer line too, but because it's a steel nib, I suspect at some point it may need to be replaced, but that is in the future, and I'm not going to worry about that at the moment. When you pull this back up, the barrel back up, and the nib goes back down, you have to do this very, very slowly, because I'll show you what happens when you do it quickly. So you do it slowly, you put the cap on the pen, and you're done. This will keep the ink inside very tightly. It's essentially an ink bottle with a pen nib in the middle of it. But let me show you what happens when you move this quickly. I'm not going to move it out quickly because that's sort of obvious what will happen. But when you go down quickly, ink will splatter out, and I'll try to do this over here so the cat doesn't get covered in ink. If I pull this down, no, that didn't happen. Oh, no. Try it again. Well, I guess there's maybe not as much ink as it was before, but I would just pull it down very, very slowly, it's a little tight, so you really have to hold on to each part very tightly. But it's a very sturdy pen. I'm very happy with it. I was a little bit concerned, or skeptical, I guess the word would be, about how the flow would work. But the flow seems to be very, very good, and this particular ink, the carbon platinum ink, seems to be fine. So I would recommend this pen to any artist that likes to do permanent ink. Use permanent ink to put ink washes on top of which you put ink washes. You can buy these pens, I'm sure, online. You can get them at the Bromfield Pen Store and on Bromfield Street in Boston, and they work really well. So I'm going to continue to use this. Let me just explain I'll explain a little bit how this works. I'll draw a little picture of it here. Well, let's see if I can, let me unscrew this part. This is something you normally would not do, but I just want to show you the parts of this pen. When you pull this back, you see this little rod here, and there's a little, I'm not exactly sure how this works, but there's a little bushing here of watertight material that this slides back and forth through. And at some point, I know that the old versions of this pen, cork was used as the bushing material. There was a hole drilled through a cork. This probably has some sort of synthetic system doing it. And where did the other part of the pen go? Come on, kitty, where did you put it? There we go. And I suspect at some point that might need to be replaced, but it might need to be replaced 20 years from now. So I think it'll be fine. So again, when you pull it back, you have to be very careful about not pulling it back too quickly. There you go. Ta-da. Say goodbye, kitty.